Bitcoin never does what you expect it to do.
Don't try to time the market. After the halving, we can be at like 20,000 US dollar, but we can also be at 200,000 US dollar.
So I'm dedicating full time to Bitcoin.
This is where frustration comes from.
The pain might not yet be big enough.
Bitcoin can change something in society.
Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Bitcoin is the best form of collateral ever invented, the best global settlement layer.
What do you see as a Bitcoiner? Like what person is a Bitcoiner? Do you think, like what attributes do you go on and say this is a Bitcoiner?
I think a Bitcoiner needs to be a bit of a person that likes to think and not just let things come at him and let this person passive towards things. But let's say if you, and this can happen in whatever situation in life, in work. I think Bitcoiners that don't know it yet that they are good Bitcoiners are people that like to take initiative of something, take their own, put like their efforts and their strength at the availability of a project or an idea that they have, and that they try to build their own careers, to make things better for themselves and for those, for their kids, for their families. So I think probably these are the good kind of characteristics of a Bitcoiner. Trying to, being active. Nothing is gifted. Something can be gifted to you. You can get an heritage from your family and stuff, but in general, life it's complex, for everybody, and everybody has its own challenges, and it's up to how you reply and how you face these challenges that shows you also like who you are as a person.
Definitely, in the challenge, like in the hard times, it shows your character. And for me, it's always interesting how we are not at full adoption yet, because inflation is high. Everything is like putting on for Bitcoin. But I also think that the pain just might be not enough for people to get in. Like so many people that would have the mindset, as you described it, to be a Bitcoiner, but they're not in Bitcoin yet. They're still in the fiat world. They're still, maybe they have some ETFs, maybe they have some stocks, maybe they have even some gold. But why are they not getting to be a Bitcoiner? What do you think is the big hurdle that people are now not a Bitcoiner? Is the pain just not big enough?
Well, probably the pain might not yet be big enough, and also maybe I don't know, for some reason they never got really attracted to Bitcoin. And if you just tend to follow things on let's say general media and whatever newspapers, like the connotation that is given to Bitcoin tends to be like quite of the magical internet money. So let's say if you don't invest the time for some reason that somebody really give some hints and say, hey, for your own wellness, like you should look at this. It might be just as one of the many other things around us that you don't really focus on, and you continue to struggle on everything you're doing. I think education is the main barriers to entry for many people, and many of them also tend to just give up when you try to explain maybe how Bitcoin works and blocks and subsidy and difficulty adjustment and things. People get a bit scared that they cannot understand it, while at the end it needs some commitment to want it, and then once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So it's like a filter that you put on yourself that changes everything about how you plan your life, what are your priorities, and what you really want to focus your time and energies on.
Would you say that Bitcoin was fundamental in your life? Did something when you got Bitcoin change?
I mean, in a way, yes. As a proper Italian, always like to have fancy shoes, fancy pants, fancy stuff, and always hanging out and spending good money in dinners, drinks, bottles at tables, and other things. And at the end, I don't know, you realize that I mean this worked until you realize Bitcoin, and you realize that maybe it's not really worth to throw money at many things, and it's better to save for the future. So definitely it changed me. It took me quite some time, but it's a step that once something really, after 10, 15, 20 hours, when something really does click, and then everybody has its own aha moment to that gets him or her into Bitcoin, and then another world opens, and there it's where everything starts to make sense, and then you get interested by the day, and so yeah, it definitely changed my approach to life, relationships, and many other things, to work. So yeah.
Amazing. And it's also like, for me, I always see that with Bitcoiners that get into Bitcoin and something changes, but it's also interesting how people even get to Bitcoin. We talked before about how so many people are not getting into Bitcoin, even though they should understand it, and how the pain is not great enough. And especially for Bitcoiners that get Bitcoin already now, where the pain is not extremely high for most people. Of course, when we talk about Venezuela and Nigeria, it's a different story, but also there, the adoption is way higher. We're more like 20, 25, 30% of adoption in countries like Austria, Italy, where you're coming from, or the Western civilization. We are talking like 5, 10, maximum 15% in some areas adoption. So this pain thing definitely helps. But the pain obviously is not as high in your circumstances. Like how did you, or why did you get involved in Bitcoin?
Well, it was I was recently moving from my Barcelona studies to Luxembourg to start my career into alternative funds, and it was 2017, or August 2017. So the kind of the late stages of the 2017 bull run, and Bitcoin was always popping up on the news, and I bought and did some gains and sold like after a month and a half, and then so it declining, and I was like, that was good. I entered and did my trade at a good time. Now this thing is probably dead, and didn't discover it back until late 2019, early 2020. From that moment, it was the moment where I started investing, and after a couple of weeks, it was COVID drawdown. So Bitcoin always teaches you like the hard way, how things work. You come in for the quick profits, and you get slapped in your face very soon afterwards, and then you start realizing many things, and putting energies into like understanding what it really is. Podcast, Twitter, reading some books, the classical steps. And I've orange pilled quite some people in my journey in Luxembourg, in traditional financial institutions, colleagues, ex-colleagues. So then it's a journey, and you feel like it's like if we are sellers and we want to sell something to people, despite we don't really gain from the direct sale of people, and we are actually doing it because we care about them, Like if I would not care about the people around me, like I would not be, be talking about Bitcoin to them, trying to explain it to them and let them understand that it's their way out for a probably better financial future. So
Yeah, definitely. It's someone, if you sell someone Bitcoin, it's like selling someone on the idea of getting into sun. Like get out there, do sun tanking, work out. Like you don't profit if someone else goes in the sun or someone else works out. You don't profit from that, and you also don't profit if someone else comes in Bitcoin. I mean, if you see it really hard, of course, your investment gets a little bit stronger when you convince one more person into Bitcoin. But in the end of the day, it just does not matter. If you you have to really orange peel a lot of people with a lot of money to even make a little bit of difference in the Bitcoin purchasing power, which it's just not reachable for anyone in particular. I think even the really big guys like Michael Saylor or Jeff Booth, in the greater scheme of things, Bitcoin would not do so differently if they would not be there. There would be some other Michael Saylor, there would be some other Jeff Booth, there would be some other person instead of them. So even the really big guys, we can make an argument, are not that dramatically good for like they're not that necessarily for Bitcoin, because there would be someone else. Like this is something that humbles all the people, because all of a sudden you're like, Bitcoin just does not need me. It's like I can do something in Bitcoin, but it does not need me really. Of course, we can work in Bitcoin. I can make a podcast in Bitcoin, which benefits me if people listen to me, and then I can like maybe even live from that, make this my main thing. In that way, I can benefit from it, but I cannot benefit from like directly Bitcoin price appreciation in that regard. Yeah. And you also talked about orange pilling, where you're successful. Orange pilling is sometimes really a hard experience.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. My 20-25 friends probably successfully orange pilled, and you know that they are, after a bit, like they start really asking you things, and like when should I buy, what should I do, and how should I manage my stack, shall I liquidate a bit now? And I mean, the replies for me are always kind of the same. So stack constantly, and possibly don't sell never. So I think I was decently successful at orange peeling. At the same time, I've done also like some here, three in-person session here in Italy in my community. Videos are available on my channel on YouTube in Italian, and like with just basically family and friends and some other connections. I got also here, very good like response from them. But they got some hints in how, like, what is money, first of all, like why the system might not work. But some of them are still, hesitant to make the step. And they're always like, hey, would you like to manage things for me? I give you money, please manage it. But, this is not part of the orange peeling. Like, there are a lot of risks, especially in Bitcoin, involved in like self-custody and all the other central topics and central key aspects of Bitcoin. So orange peeling can be easy, decently easy to do, depending on the person you have in front. If he's a curious person and willing to do stuff, so this and proactive, this might happen easily. If you have the person curious, but that might be afraid of the technology, or like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Then it's a half orange peel, I would say. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Those questions come a lot, and this is also why I partnered up with 21 Bitcoin and BitBox, because people always ask me, okay, how do I buy Bitcoin? How do I store Bitcoin? And basically, I was like, okay, I want to have the most beginner friendly things, and I just put it in my description. I put it everywhere, and then I can just say like, go there. That's what I recommend, but you can do whatever you want. And this is the important thing with Bitcoin. You have to take yourself seriously and take your own responsibility. Just because someone says like, "Oh, go there, you can store your Bitcoin there, you can buy them there," it's not necessarily the best way for you. Like it's maybe just a way that he recommends for new beginners, but maybe you should have a different setup. You should buy differently. Maybe you want to do different stuff. Like we have to learn to take responsibility. And this also brings me to my next question, which I'm deeply convinced about, that Bitcoin can change something in society. It's just a matter of how much and how big the impact of that will be, because you also say like Bitcoin puts like kind of a filter on yourself and on the world. What do you think will, like, before we get into this, what do you think of society right now, or like the last couple of decades, if we are like in a decay, or like how do you see it, and what do you think will Bitcoin then do to us moving forward in a greater scheme of things?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's kind of undeniable from anyone that society has been in a kind of decay from for the last 20, 30, maybe 53 years since 1971. Who knows? But definitely from around that time, because I don't know, there is a general erosion of what are the main values that a society and people should have, like focus on the focus on relationships, on family, on the concept of family, or on the concept of money, or on the concept of work, and all this of religion, for instance. Like there are so many things that I felt, and so many values that I feel have been lost a bit on the way. And everybody now is focused on just using like social apps, whatever their age is, whether they're younger generation or even like older people. I mean, they are always on social network, doing trips and travels to just post things, going to restaurants, just post their meals and their new clothes, and it's very kind of short terminism, just to buy something or to do something to show it to other people. So, and of course, as Bitcoiners, we all believe that indeed this is linked to money, like money that depreciates in value quickly. Does not incentivize you to save it, but rather to spend it. And probably this is where we are at now. And so I want to be hopeful that indeed like Bitcoin brings back some good values in society. I mean, also, a bit from the fourth turning book, we should be in those years where some major upheaval in society via who knows, at the economic level or at geopolitical level, would trigger like some big changes, and that afterwards, like these big changes, I mean, this big event, big impact event, would then trigger changes in society afterwards. And I don't know, it feels like a bit all the cards and all the pieces of the puzzle are putting them together. COVID and Russia attacking Ukraine, and now like also the other conflict in in Israel. So it feels like a lot of things are just putting all in line for a big mess to follow, without even mentioning, the financial side of things. I come from Bitcoin. I come to Bitcoin from a traditional finance background, so I tend to understand maybe better than some others which have different backgrounds how situation from an economical point of view, on inflation, on debt levels, and interest rate to the roof, and like all which are affecting society from a deep level. So yeah.
And definitely, and it makes something with the human brain because people trust still the US dollars, the euro, the fiat currencies, especially those who are not 100% well educated about finances and not aware of the problem. They are trusting that the value of the currency or the money and they have, even though it's not money for me, but they think it is money, holds their value long term, and they see and they learn instinctively that it doesn't. So even though they don't notice it because it's slow and not really fast, they notice it on a deeper level, and so they are incentivized to spend and to consume more. So then, they're like, we have to be in the rat race, and we are doing more and more, and it's nothing shows for us. And this is where frustration, I think, also comes from, and depressions also come from, not only from that, but I think this is a big source of that when people don't have money, because money is a big problem. If you run out of money in your life, other problems seem small. Like money is where we are exchanging time to each other, and this is something you want to have more of and not less of. And it's sometimes sad to see that the people that need Bitcoin the most don't see it. Even really rich people don't see Bitcoin or even argue against it. But I don't care for them too much because they will see it eventually, and if they go under or their stack gets halved or or like cut in 4 pieces, it does not matter that much because they have so much. But on the lower side, they should have way more Bitcoin. They should get in Bitcoin early. And it's like something that I think the podcast went out today about how Bitcoin will help, especially the lower class of the society. And you also wrote an interesting article about Bitcoin bonds on LinkedIn. I checked also like what you wrote there, and it was really, really cool to see the topic of Bitcoin bonds. I think El Salvador also has Bitcoin bonds. For people that don't know about Bitcoin bonds or even maybe don't even know about bonds, what is this and what are Bitcoin bonds?
A bond is just a contractual obligation, is a contract that guarantees a certain borrower to give funds to take funds and to use these funds for its own corporate initiative or government initiatives, and then it's paid back a certain coupon over the life of the bond, and plus the nominal interest and the nominal value of the bond at the end. And so, by starting from this, from this theory, like everybody, as always in traditional financial world, has always used this instrument to allocate big portion of traditional institutional portfolios, because bonds, were providing also that diversification benefits when equities were not doing that well. And bonds have been in a like interest rate have been trending down for a very long time. So in this way, like prices of bonds are inversely correlated to interest rates. So interest rate declining means bond prices are rising. And so institutions since the 70s, the 80s, after Volcker raised the interest rate to about 20% to tame inflation, have been in a perpetual bull market, and but now things have been changing. Interest rate in end of 21, beginning of 22 have started rising, and like the real interest rate that bondholders were getting on their bonds was negative. So meaning they were lending funds to somebody else to then be paid to lose money, basically. So it's not an investment anymore. And Bitcoin, integrating Bitcoin in a bond contract could be actually that part that only a small portion, of course, depending on the issuer's willingness and also on the potential buyer of the bond. You can have like a 5 to 10% allocation of that bond to Bitcoin, so held as a collateral of the bond, which can improve the credit rating of the issuer, which would back the bond with hard assets, and that indeed could the appreciation of Bitcoin could indeed basically level out what is like the depreciation of the currency and from inflation. So in this way, it could be a win-win for both the issuer of the bond and the bond buyer, and it could really restabilize some and link back some of the debt levels to some hard assets. And what El Salvador is doing, actually, I'm not sure whether they effectively launched the bond yet or not, but indeed they wanted to do their Volcano bonds, where this was kind of they would follow the same structure, and they would they would mine their bonds, their Bitcoin via the Volcano energy. So yeah, it's definitely a good strategy, a very forward-looking strategy to, put to work stranded energy of your country, transforming it into capital, and use this capital, international capital, global capital, to back a debt issuance to do things in your country. So definitely a very nice approach.
Amazing, yeah, and it's for me always fascinating to see where Bitcoin gets more and more integrated in all those financial systems, and we have seen it now with the Bitcoin ETF. We have seen it before with El Salvador making it legal tender. Then before we have seen it with Saylor and MicroStrategy, the first publicly traded company to put it on a balance sheet, and there's so many more milestones in the past. We have seen Bitcoin gets adopted in financial product in something that's already existing, because it's such a great idea, and people will think, how can I integrate that great idea in my environment, like MicroStrategy in the company, with El Salvador and the bonds, with ETFs and BlackRock, with like having a Bitcoin ETF. And this all is really, really cool. It's not necessary to have, but it's consequential to happen, because Bitcoin is sound money. So it also fires then up the next wave of adoptions. And this is kind of my next question. Do you see structured products, the Bitcoin ETFs, then the bonds and all those things happening as like the next wave of Bitcoin adoption, where this whole financial system, that's the fiat system basically, is now saying, oh shit, this Bitcoin thing is not going away. we have this for longer. Let's integrate it in our financial systems. And in that way is acting kind of like a Trojan horse for the financial system, because everybody wants a piece of the fees and everything, and the price appreciation. And it's kind of peacefully revolutionizing the system from within, because people are like, let's get Bitcoin inside. Let's get us some fees. Let's get us some price appreciation. Is it like that you're seeing?
I mean, for sure, like in the Bitcoin space, we have been saying for quite some years that like institutions are here, and but institutions were never really here until probably with the big ETFs. Apart from, indeed, as you mentioned, like MicroStrategy or Tesla or some other like smaller players, smaller and isolated players. So yeah, I mean, at the end, Bitcoin is the best. Is an asset class in and of itself. Is the best form of collateral ever invented. Is the best global settlement layer ever invented. So I think it's quite natural that it will become like a go-to item for many financial and non-financial companies in the world. And with the ETFs now, big institutions will use ETFs and create other Bitcoin products to use as collateral to lend money against. Many other integrations will happen with AI, and the fact that you can with Lightning payments you can let users pay directly for the AI services that they are using, and instead of creating like big chunk of closed source AI platform, you could create an open source AI platform that you can just pay for what you really use, or like all the micro payments that you can apply to X accounts and to verify that you're actually not a bot by spending like quarter of cents every now and then. Or like everything that Fountain app is doing on the streaming, like SAT streaming, or really when you do some sort of like SAT insurance, for everybody which does like kind of extreme sports or skiing or other things. Like imagine having the possibility to stream part of your SATs on the Lightning network just in those moments to the insurance company to get coverage. So I mean, I think these are just some of the possibilities and some of the possible integrations that are there nowadays. Just on Bitcoin, the monetary asset. And then, of course, there is a full and complete other rabbit hole related to mining and how it can be integrated into any energy company and into many other industries. Like in Finland, they're studying like district heating done with Bitcoin miners. In the Netherlands, they were doing this. They were using waste heat from miners to heat greenhouses, to grow tulips and other vegetables. And I mean, I think at both at corporate level and state level, as soon as some people will do the work, spend their 50, 100 hours into understanding Bitcoin, I'm very confident that it will be integrated in any sector of the economy.
21 Bitcoin is Bitcoin only from day one, and they teach and preach self-custody. This is my go-to exchange when someone asks me, oh, where can I buy my Bitcoin from? This is the easiest entry for Bitcoiners. And if you want lower fees, plus at the same time support this podcast, use code Robin and click the link in the description. Yeah, 100%. And it's amazing. I had Lisa Huff on like 10, 15, 20, or even 30 episodes ago. I don't know exactly what the episode number was. And she's talking about monetizing every last molecule of electricity from the energy companies. And she's talking actually about how the next wave of Bitcoin adoption will come from the Bitcoin miners, because the Bitcoin not the Bitcoin miners, from the energy companies, because the energy companies have actually pay sometimes for things to store, for their sources to store, because they cannot use them. And if they see that they can use the energy, just mine Bitcoin and get actually money for that, That's amazing. It's similar to what happened with crude oil and in the COVID area, where when you have those future contracts running out, and then all of a sudden you had to take the crude oil in your own in your own custody. Basically, you basically have to pay for crude oil to if you have it. That's crazy story in the Corona time. And this is kind of like weird to think of, but the energy companies have a lot of possibilities to mine Bitcoin. Like there will be, I mean, the hash rate is going up parabolic since the beginning. Basically, the chart looks like a straight line up. It's really interesting to see. But yeah, it's also interesting how this all shapes up with Bitcoin miners, with the energy companies adopting it, and it will be interesting how we can capture otherwise wasted energy and put it in Bitcoin, basically. That's really cool.
Everything related to all the renewable energy transitions that the governments like are really pushing for, and I believe in climate change. I think climate is really changing. I also believe that we are underestimating in the short term what could happen, but we are overestimating in the short term what could happen, but we are underestimating it in the long term. And now everybody believes that everything should happen with EV and removing baseload energies such as coal and nuclear and replacing it with wind and solar farms, like it happened in Germany, for instance. And then like these projects cannot really stand by themselves without government subsidies. So the only way to in the past, it was not really possible to do anything else. You cannot build a steel factory or any other factory which needs constant power to run, because these sources of energy are not baseload, so they are peak capacity. And now you have the perfect buyer of any stranded electricity, which fix you a price and pays it and can turn on and off in 3 minutes, an entire plant. So, and it directly monetize the source of energy. So I think it's really mind blowing when you think about the possibilities. So, yeah.
It's amazing. And we talked about bonds and we talked about miners. And both is kind of related to El Salvador. And I also recently saw Nayib Bukele giving out free passports for skilled people, which is an amazing move. This the whole game theory with nation states adopting Bitcoin and being on a global scale, also with a marketing point of view for that space is amazing. What did you thought of Nayib Bukele and maybe your general thoughts on El Salvador?
I was in El Salvador actually in January. Did 2 weeks backpacking there, and didn't just go in Bitcoin Beach, El Zonte, and El Tunco, but traveled a bit around. And it's quite a nice country. They have a lot of activities to do, especially hikes and hiking volcanoes, and we climbed waterfalls and did other very good things. So I think Bukele is doing his own. He's bringing forward his program, which I don't think many of the people actually understood yet clearly, and everybody was very glad, not really about the Bitcoin stuff that he made, but because he was finally able to remove the gangs from the streets and to allow everybody to have a life, being able to walk the day and the night and dress up as they want, and not being not risk of being robbed or murdered by somebody else because they didn't like the color of your shoes. So I think things are changing, and Bukele is really playing a bit the sovereign individual theory explained in the 1997 book. and I mean, at the end, if you're a country and you put low taxes, low to zero taxes, you incentivize people to come to your country. You don't want to steal their productivity via taxation. You are attracting. You're putting yourself as a global talent platform where you incentivize people to come and to build their own life. I live in Italy, and Italy is it's a beautiful country. We have many beautiful things, beautiful places, great food, and beautiful stuff. But we have probably the highest taxation in the world. I still don't really understand how people can make end meet here, because it's very complex. Luckily, we are a country of savers. We are a country with a quite high home ownership rate. Of course, you're not directly pushed into the streets like in many other countries, which like UK or Northern Europe, where you tend to rent. But yeah. Italy is definitely not attracting global talents as Michele is doing, and he's playing the long game, and I'm very confident in his plan. So yeah.
What's going on in Italy with Bitcoin? Do you have some politicians in Bitcoin that are vocal about it? Do you have some meetups? Like, how is the Bitcoin adoption going in Italy?
That I've lived for quite some time in Luxembourg, and I always tended to follow the international community more than the Italian community in specific. Actually, the Italian community in Bitcoin is the second biggest one in Europe after Germany. And there are quite some activities especially in the north of Italy, like a little meetup here and there. I'm not really aware of, maybe just because I'm not super knowledgeable of this, but it actually exists already, of politicians, bringing Bitcoin into their agendas. We are not, unfortunately, that much forward-looking. And but yeah, Giacomo Zucco and Federico Rivi and Ricci, and there are many Italians which are doing a very good job in spreading the word on Twitter, creating also like alternative websites where you can find information in local language. Yeah, I think the community is building. We are in a good momentum. Well, everybody's in a good momentum. Price has finally started rising again, so it becomes easier also to us to talk Bitcoin to people. While in the last 2 years, everybody was like, "Yeah, I don't want to know about that Bitcoin thing that lost 70%." So, yeah.
Yeah, it's now we're up like in the last year, some 120 or 130% or something like that. And people start to listening again to Bitcoin. It's fascinating how the price is still the most effective marketing tool. And the last topic I want to cover today is you also covered it, I think, on LinkedIn, when I remember correctly. And Michael Saylor was talking about it. And it's every cycle, it's a topic. It's like Michael Saylor calls it the gold rush over the next 10 years to Bitcoin. In the last cycles, it was like the theory of the super cycle. Do we have a super cycle this cycle? Because this cycle is different than all the other cycles. And you also wrote about the gold rush, probably inspired by Michael Saylor. What do you think? Can the ETF and this cycle, because it's the first cycle where we actually hit the new all-time high before the halving, which was never there before. There's actually something that's different to the other cycles. Can we actually hit like a super cycle where we are going up every year for like 10 years or like for even longer, or like break this 3 years up, 1 year down, 4 year kind of cycle?
starting from the fact that Bitcoin never does what you expect it to do, I mean, it's very difficult to kind of to predict, no? So I think the kind of the cycle will remain at least for the next couple halvings, because there will still be a somehow significant part of Bitcoin to be mined, and the gold rush should indeed take place until 2034, which is half of in the next two halvings, where up until basically there will be just the last 1% of the Bitcoin to be mined in the 106 years approximately. So I think, I link a lot the cycles also to like human action and human feelings, and all the euphoria, disbelief, and greed, and like all these emotions that take part of people. I don't really think will change that much after you are 2, 3, 10x on your investment. You are tempted to maybe take some chips off the table, or to, try to lend part of it out, and or speculate that it will appreciate more, and you go leverage long on some bets. So I think, I don't know, this will not change. And even though the effect of institutions, they are quite, let's say, special monster in a way, because at the end most of them, at least that we know, are listed on the public markets. They are very short-term focused. So every quarter, every end of the quarter, every end of the year, probably if they have done 40, 50, 70% or more on their Bitcoin, they will try to sell and to show positive results, and then maybe buy again. So there could be some hiccups here and there. I don't know. I think the kind of the structure of the upsides and downsides of the cycle more or less will remain, at least for the next two rounds. Then who knows, when we reach, maybe in 10 years we will reach a billion people, maybe more. So which would be 15% of the global population. So yeah, maybe by then things would really change, but I don't see it changing now. So what's your view on this?
It's interesting. I don't know. It feels very different. It's now made a whole cycle through, because I came in in 2020 with that cycle, and the power that Bitcoin has, and the backing that Bitcoin has, is just way greater than 4 years ago. We have 4 years ago, the first publicly traded company with Seyr and MicroStrategy came in. Now we have 80 or 70 or 90 or something like that publicly traded companies in America that are in Bitcoin. All around the world, it's a similar trend where more and more publicly traded company come in Bitcoin. 4 years ago, we did not have any nation state even saying Bitcoin or anything like that. Now we have a nation state that is almost as big as Austria, with a leader who shitposts about Bitcoin on Twitter. That's pretty hilarious. I love that is happening, and that we are in a time to be alive in this stage of time. And we even have speculation about new countries. We have Argentina, an extremely big country that has now a leader that says abolish the central banks, which is fantastic. I know he's not 100% Bitcoiner. He just wants a free market, and obviously in the free market, Bitcoin will rise. So if it's actually implemented as a free market, so we have so many great forces going on that we did not have going on 4 years ago. But this could be said about any 4-year cycle. Every 4-year cycle, Bitcoin was so much stronger at the beginning of the 4-year cycle than the beginning of the last 4-year cycle. So I don't know. Like, I don't try to do price predictions. I just know that I will DCA into Bitcoin till it's the base layer of our monetary system, and then I will DCA into Bitcoin because I get paid in Bitcoin. So till I get paid in fiat currencies, I will buy Bitcoin with it, and when I'm not getting paid in fiat currencies, I get paid in Bitcoin, and I keep my Bitcoin stack. At some point, I might tinker around with stocks and businesses more because at some point Bitcoin just gets boring and it's just the global reserve asset we all use. So then I might be interested in speculating a little bit more than now. But right now, my only focus is Bitcoin. So I don't know. It's an interesting topic. I heard so many different opinions already on the podcast because I like to also talk about a topic about the on the podcast. From now, it's around a week till the halving. When this podcast comes out, it's probably the halving already went by. So we are already from the 6.25 to the 3.125. Yeah, let's see what happens. The biggest takeaway for everyone that's listening, especially if you're a little bit newer to the game, don't try to time the market. Like we can be after the halving, we can be at like $20,000, but we can also be at $200,000. Like there's both can happen really quickly. There can be 100K candle a day. I don't think it will happen, but possibly it could happen with a lot of things happening at the same time. Bitcoin does weird things at some points. So yeah, just keep your TCA plan and stack sats and keep calm and enjoy the show, enjoy the ride. It's what a time to be alive. It's I love to be alive in this area.
Don't try to time the market, but timing the market is the most.
So yeah, don't try to time the market, but time in the market is, as also Warren Buffett was saying, like is probably the best strategy for Bitcoin. Like things are going up and down, and you said we don't know if it will be 20K or 200K after the halving. If it would be somewhere around 20K, would be a last blessing before we really shoot up and we go to like 6 digits. So who knows? Yeah, always good to keep some cash on the side, potentially to buy some dips. So this is always good to do.
Definitely, I would love it. For my last question, what are you currently studying? Like, what's the main thing that you are now passionate about?
Well, so yeah, I left my fiat job in end of November, December. So I'm really focused on Bitcoin now, and I would like to contribute to a Bitcoin company. So I'm getting informed, like, and dedicating full time to Bitcoin. There is no specific topic I would say that I'm really focused on. I try to understand a bit more everything which is happening on the more technical level, even though I'm not really with a technical background at all. Trying to understand like what are devs working on, and opcat and CTVs and other upgrades to the network. And at the same time, I'm also trying to understand like all the good things of everything which is happening from a monetary side and fiscal side, from states, from government, trying to understand it from like in a Bitcoin lens, and how Bitcoin could benefit this. So it's really just a broad range of things. I'm putting out some content in double language in my newsletter, so in Italian and English, for any Italian which might be interested in getting to know more about what I write. And this is my contribution that I'm doing to the space at the moment. So yeah.
Really cool. And we have an ended team in the podcast where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest. And your question from the previous guest is an interesting one because it has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Just a fun question. Did you ever ride a horse?
A what?
A horse.
A horse. Actually, yes. When I was a kid, I did ride a horse. It was not a small one, but a big one, because my sister was doing horse riding. So she drove me there, and yeah, it was cool. I almost don't remember it now. I was really maybe 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah, really cool. Thank you for being on. For people that want to ask you questions, reach out to you. Where can people reach you?
Well, they can find me on Nicolò Zuccarelli on LinkedIn. I'm active there on a more, let's say, formal way, but I'm also active on X at macro IDK underscore BTC. So yeah, that is more like the anonymous side, commenting and shit posting on Twitter, while we try to be a bit more formal on LinkedIn. So yeah.
Twitter makes it more fun.
Yeah, indeed. But it's also good to be on LinkedIn. So because there are also like more professional, not more professional, but many more professional, just maybe trying really to understand what you're saying, while on Twitter everybody is throwing good and bad things at you a bit abruptly. So
and we connected on LinkedIn, and that's why we do the podcast, right? So LinkedIn is definitely good.
Yeah, indeed.
Perfect. Then goodbye, Nicolò, and thank you for being on.
Yeah, thanks a lot for hosting me.